Sorry about that. Had to get some stuff going. Supposed to be on here a lot sooner, but Time management got away from me this morning. Woke up late. That's just been fun all around. Anyways. Alright, guys. We're back. Day 5. I know. It should be day 6 technically, but... Well... You win some, you lose some, huh? Okay, so we're going to pick up with powerful generics. On the playlist, that is actually... What is that? Number 2? Last time we finished off on the heat map, which was number 4 on the playlist. But today we're going to pick up number 2. So yeah, if you want to follow along, you want to go ahead and boot it up, get Unity open, start the video. Let's go.
Our goal here is to create a grid that works with generics so we can use it for just about anything. If you're not familiar with generics, they are a really awesome feature of C# that essentially lets us use any type we want. So that means that we can make our nice grid in here and do something where each grid position can hold various letters and numbers. So as I put the mouse over this grid position and I hit a key, and there you go, I've added a letter into the underlying grid object. Now I add another letter. Now if I want, I can press a number, and there you go, it is added into a different part of the same grid object. So I have my generic grid, and each grid position is holding a custom grid object. Another type is just using a simple boolean. So as you can see, everything is false, and when I click, it turns into true. And I've also modified the heat map visual in order to work with the generic with boolean, so as I click, it turns from black to green. So with generics, we can set up our grid to work with whatever type we want. That means simple types like ints and bools, but also complex custom types that contain whatever logic and data we want. So previously we made this nice grid class. It splits the map area into a grid, each holding a specific value. We also use this grid class to make a heat map visual, so when I click, there you go, the underlying value changes as well as the visual representation. So go check out both those videos to better understand our starting point. Now the underlying code for all of this is over here. We have a grid array of ints. Now that worked great since over here the heat map is based on a nice numeric value. So we have from 0 to 100. However, ints are not the best data type for every single problem. Like for example, let's say we want to make a grid map for our pathfinding. So we want to define areas which are walkable and areas which are blocked. Technically we could do that with ints and use a 1 for walkable and 0 for blocked. However, that would be pretty messy code. A better approach would be to simply store a boolean instead. Another use that wouldn't be suitable for ints would be if we wanted to store a list of objects within that cell. For example, that's exactly what I made when I created the quadrant system in ECS.
We start figuring out ECS. That's going to be pretty dope.
So our int-based grid is a great starting point.
For now,
we can greatly expand
start with the basics. Make grids,
we make it work with
make UI, make inventory.
Alright, so let's get to it. So here is our starting scene. And here in the project files, I have the basic grid as well as the heat map. Again, this was all fully created from scratch in a previous video, so check the link in the description if you haven't seen it yet. So over here we have a testing game object that contains a testing script. And in here, in our script, you can see it's very simple. Just on start, we are instantiating our grid, and we are setting it on the heat map visual. Then when we click, we are adding a value to the grid, which then updates the visual. So let's make it smaller for testing. Okay, so here is our grid, and as you can see, it splits our world into various grid cells. And if I click, there you go, I'm modifying the underlying grid as well as the visual. Okay, now let's go into our grid class. And okay, here it is. Now we're going to modify it in order to use generics. If you're not familiar with generics, they are a really awesome feature of C#. When you make a class, you can define it to use a generic. And what you are saying is that you want it to be usable by a multitude of types. If you've used a list, then you're already familiar with generics. So in here, for example, you know that to make a list, you put list, then you put the type inside, then you call it something, and you create it. So just like this, we created a list object that can only receive ints.
Oh, excuse me. So we go into our grid class. Come over here. Oh my. Let's see. So I just want to make sure, go over this, get with height cells. don't know if there's a faster way to collapse everything, but I personally just like to collapse this. Alright, okay. So, our grid class, we're going to come over here. I'm going to say we're going to create a list. Actually, he's going over it right now. So, list of ints. He was just giving an example, talking through it. Let him finish.
However, you can also do, here is another list, except this one only works with booleans. However, both of these objects use the very same base class. Here is the base list class, which as you can see uses a generic. So this is what we're going to use. Now let's go into our grid class. And then here, instead of being just grid, let's add grid that receives a generic and call it grid object. So this means that when I instantiate the grid class, I will tell it which type it should use. So I could use this same class to instantiate a grid of ints or booleans or any custom type I want. So now here in our code, let's replace all references of int on our grid array and replace them with our custom type. So over here, and
How do you call that?
so on.
T-grid. Okay, so we'll call it T-grid object. And everywhere that had a grid array with the int, we're gonna swap that out. Let's see. I wonder if I can find that really quickly. We'll just say int rip. I wonder if you can isolate it to nope. Okay, never mind. Just kidding. Guess we're gonna have to look for it. And I closed everything out. How funny. Do that. So I'm gonna be in that. So I'm gonna be in that. Get cell size. Not there. World. No. No. Screw away. It's gonna have to change. Huh. That's right. He did change. Let's see.
Here is another list, use the very same base class. Here is the base list class, which as you can see uses a generic. So this is what we're going to use. Now let's go into our grid class. And then here, instead of being just grid, let's add grid that receives a generic and call it grid object. So this means that when I instantiate the grid class, I will tell it which type it should use. So I could use this same class to instantiate a grid of ints or booleans or any custom type I want. So now here in our code, let's replace all references of int on our grid array and replace them with our custom type. So over here, and so on.
Would that change that?
Over here we have
Add value.
the add value that we made this, but this one is specific for the heat map. However, in here we want to create a generic grid class, so we do not want anything specific for the heat map. So we can get rid of this one and also the add value.
Oh, wow. getting rid of the add values altogether. Well, if it's for the heat map, I guess that makes sense.
Okay, so all have been changed to use a custom grid object. And here on the get value, we have an error since we are returning a default value. Now for the integer, we return the 0, but in this case, we don't know what type we're going to have, so we can use the C# keyword default in order to return the default of the grid object. So if our grid is made up of ints, this will return 0. If our grid is made up of booleans, this will return false. And if it's made up of any custom type, it will return null. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Now our grid script, instead of working just with ints, it can work with any type we want.
Wait a second. I got an error in here. Where? Cool.
Okay, so let's go into our testing and let's test it out. Instead of making it just a grid, let's make it a grid that receives booleans. So that's how we define it, that's how we instantiate it. For now, let's comment out the heat map visual. So here on the grid, let's make sure we are enabling our debug. And in here, everything should work since our debug is using toString, which is automatically implemented in...
Huh? Oh, I just changed it to grid bool. Okay. Fair enough.
Visual. So here on the grid, let's make sure we are enabling our debug. And in here, everything should work since our debug is using toString, which is automatically implemented in every single type. So instead of seeing a bunch of zeros, we should be able to see a bunch of false.
So we're getting rid of the heat map stuff. We're getting rid
of visual.
Dealing with the add value.
So here on the grid, let's make sure we are enabling our debug. And in here, everything should work since our debug is using toString, which is automatically implemented in every single type.
I need to go in and do that. Somewhere along the line, I did not create a debug thing. So like all my stuff is just in there. I guess it's relatively straightforward. We'll just do a if show debug. I can turn that on and off at need. This doesn't need to be here anymore. And then for the add value.
So instead of seeing a bunch of zeros, we should be able to see a bunch of false. Let's see. And yep, as you can see, our grid is now correctly working with booleans. Awesome. So with this working, now let's make a different version of our heat map in order to work with booleans. So let's duplicate our script. And here let's call it heat map bool visual.
A little confused by that. I mean, he just kind of left. Yeah, he just left it there.
Initiate it. For now, let's comment out the heat map visual. So here on the grid, let's make sure we are enabling our debug.
Alright. We'll see if it magically works with the error, and I doubt it will. Yeah, it's not going to work with that. did say I was gonna. Oh,
the heat map. So that's how we define it. That's how we instantiate it. For now, let's comment out the heat map visual. So here on the grid, let's make sure we are enabling our debug. And in here, everything should work.
okay. So. Oh, blast that away. But it is still trying to. This isn't in use. I'm calling it. How did he get it to run, even though he had an error in Fusion? All right, let's take a look.
Works and see our using a regular grid. Let's use a grid that receives a type boolean. And here on the set grid, again, something of type.
Oh boy. Oh, am I that dumb? Damn. Okay. Because it's actually looking for it. Great, good stuff.
Boolean.
I'm very interested by that. How did he get that to run even though he had an error in his script?
Receives booleans. So that's how we define it. That's how we instantiate it. For now, let's comment out the heat map visual. So
Bruh, I have no idea how he even got away with that. And I have 2 grit? What? I didn't even realize that. Are these the same? Where there you go. Code monkey heat map. Okay, I don't know why I had that open. Odd. Alright, well, he's going to duplicate this. You can't just dupe a file? Interesting? Question mark? Okay, control D. Yeah.
here on the grid, let's make sure we are enabling our debug. And in here, everything should work since our debug is using toString, which is automatically implemented in every single type. So instead of seeing a bunch of zeros, we should be able to see a bunch of false. Let's see. And yep, as you can see, our grid is now correctly working with booleans. Awesome. So with this working, now let's make a different version of our heat map in order to work with booleans. So let's duplicate our script. And here, let's call it heat map bool visual. Okay, so now in here, instead of using a regular grid, let's use a grid that receives a type boolean.
Boss. All right, let's see. I got a crap ton of busted. What? What's wrong with my mesh? Everything's like out of whack right now. Now this is busted to high heaven. What? Oh. Okay. I was like, why is everything breaking?
Then here on the set grid, again, something of type boolean. And down here on the update visual, we call get value, which since we have a grid working with booleans, instead of returning an int, this will return a boolean. So we have a boolean for the grid value, and then we need the normalize in order to define the color that we're going to show. So if it's true, let's return 1f, so a green square. If not, 0f, so a black square.
Normalize, so he said grid value. It's true.
Okay, so far so good. Now here in the testing, let's add a serialized field for the...
Bruh, how is this one? What is happening to my script?
heat map. Return 1f, normal boolean, grid that receives a type boolean. Then here on the set grid, again, something of type boolean. And down here on the
Grid value changed. Okay. Clearly something is busted. This is a daily, like, immediate occurrence. What's it saying? Grid does not contain a definition of on-grid changed. Grid value change. Grid on. It is my event though. What? Public. That didn't do it. That would have helped. Yeah, I have no idea why it's not. Yeah. This is the wrong file too. Close this up. I'm not good with it.
set grid, again, something of type boolean.
Bro, what? I didn't see that part. I was like, I don't get it. That makes sense. He's looking for this, and that's going to need that.
And down here on the update visual, we call get value, which since we have a grid working with booleans, instead of returning an int, this will return a boolean. So we have a boolean for the grid value, and then we need the normalize in order to define the color that we're going to show. So if it's true, let's return 1f, so a green square. If not, 0f, so a black square. Okay, so far so good. Now here in the testing, let's add a serialized field for the heat map boolean visual. And then here we can call set grid and pass in our newly created grid. And then here on the position, instead of setting add value, we call the grid dot set value on this position, and let's put it to true. So wherever we click, we are changing from false to true. And finally, here in the editor, we'll put it to true. So wherever we
What the?
click, we are changing from false to true. And finally, here in the editor, let's duplicate this visual for our new boolean visual. Alright, so everything should be working. Let's see.
All right. What is happening? Like, I get it. This file's not going to work in here, but it's not actively in use. Is it?
And finally, here in the editor, let's true. So wherever we click, we are changing from false to true. And finally, here in the editor, let's duplicate this visual for our new boolean visual.
Up. Oh, it's right there. I know. I guess good thing to repeat. Heat map visual. Come over here. Filter. Render. Come over there. Texture lit so it doesn't look completely dark. Before. Then we're gonna what? Duplicate. this. Okay.
Alright, so everything should be working. Let's see. Okay, here we are. Everything is false and everything is in black.
So I can't get this to work. I don't know what he's using to get his to work. It's supposed to be testing. Let me go back
So
and look.
everything for our and like if it's value, and then we need the normalized.
Let's see. I'm missing something fundamental between the two. Type name on grid value changed event args does not exist in grid, but it does. It's right there. Like, do I have to go in and change everything in here too? It seems a little. Like, why create a duplicate if we're gonna already just change it there? Where is this testing? We should have two. Something's wrong. I should be looking for two different. Huh. Heat map visual bool. Visual bool. Wait a second. No, I didn't do that. Boy, chill. You'll be all right. Dog's going nuts over here. And today's just not my day, huh? Like, I was working when we started. I came in. I changed this. Yes, I understand. Like, but I'm not using that script, so I don't know why it's like wigging out. Other than in here, but even still. of my stuff's actually loading, which is a little concerning. Should have two. I only have one. That's the part that's getting me here. I got a whole world of problems. Good God, I have no idea what the hell exploded, but that's you know, only thing I could think of is just adjusting it actually to be a new grid system. So I'll just do that. Screw it. Ah, shit. Pull that up. No. I feel like I'm messing some up if I go that route. Breaking everything at this point. Shit. because I am completely lost and confused, we're gonna start from scratch. Yeah. Okay. So that works. This one, on the other hand, it's not gonna work so well because of that event handler. It's not gonna be able to find it because it's looking for the thing. All right. So. In the normal conditions, I'm supposed to. What do I have to? I'm supposed to be able to take my heat map visual and apply it here. This is all coming from the same place. These are all T-grid objects. Get T-grid object, get T-grid object. Good, 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 good. Man. Ah. That is the weirdest part about all this. Yeah, I should have just started a new testing script. I did kind of commit. Excuse me, kind of a process error where I said I was gonna, at the beginning of every new video, push things back. So maybe I need to do that. I don't know. I don't even know if I actually exported this out. I hope I did. Let's see. I did not export my heat map. All right, well, I gotta go back and I have to actually make that. So everything I just did, I'm gonna undo it. Hopefully I can. Oh boy. I should have pushed this to source control. Now I regret everything. Damn. Let's see. Source control would have made this seem much easier. Oh, wait. Then this would be different too. Right. Let's see. What would have been? Math f dot clamp value heat map min and then max. Alright, so with all that set in place in stone. Oops, forgot about that. So this does not hold true. Grid dot. Oh, I deleted the add value stuff. Oh man, that's fun, isn't it? Yeah, I goofed big time on that one, guys. I'm gonna have to add that back in. Sworn I had saved that out, but apparently past me did not export. So gotta do that now. So let's do it. ease it a bit though. Grab his. Alright. Oh. Alright. So I got rid of my add value. It's this. And then I have to actually put the other helper. Is it 5? Five, and then what was like? Wait. 2, 10. Hey, let's see if this works. Yeah, no, I don't know how to get it to work either. It's magic. How can I? It's not supposed to. What? Okay. Yep. You gotta crack this one open. Take a look at it again. So let's see. Heat map visual. And give value. Okay. Okay.
You don't know about real loss, because that only occurs when you love something more than you love yourself. I doubt you've ever dared to love anybody that much. You never looked at a woman and been totally vulnerable.
Idiot. I'm gonna rename these. This is less of a review and more of me just going over it, but Still no, huh? Oh, it actually needs it from here, which it's not letting me do. What? What? Oh my god, are you kidding? Bros. Oh my god. I thought that was on there the whole time. I'm good at this stuff. You know, I'm trying to be a game developer, right? One day I'm gonna look back on all this and be like, "What? Jesus, that was bad." Oof. It hurts. It hurts. All right. Yeah, sure. Orphan's not set. Okay. Yada 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 yada. Good God. Better like reset this thing up. Yeah, it's not working as intended yet. Man, I really goofed up. Remember, if you're gonna do multiple projects, export what you got first. That way, if you do screw up and you just need to re-import it, cake. Maps back. XY, set up the map. Max value, min value. Font size, okay. Add value XY, so it's gonna be world position. I'll get my X, my Y, and then my value. I'm gonna call set value the other one. Value XY origin, value. And testing. Okay. Map, visual, set grid. This is the grid. Okay. Let's see. It doesn't work as intended still. Rip. All right, let's check it. why I had that. Position. Add value position. Huh. Crap. Getting antsy. Only about an hour. Okay, I definitely have to come back and do this. The first half of this is all about redoing the freaking heat map so I can save it properly. Grid add value position. Oh, so it's position. Yeah. Isn't that what I have? Oh, I don't. There. For heaven's sake. It only took, an hour. Okay. Let me see if this actually cleans everything up for us. Going through, making sure everything's update mesh update. I mean, so for performance issues, he says he turns off. Where's my debug switch? False. Oh. What? Hold on a second. That can't be right. If it's not one thing, it's another. Wait. I somehow tie my debugger on what? So if this is true, but this shouldn't be attached to. How did I attach? I somehow attached my heat mapping to like what? Whew. Man, I tell you what. I don't even know. I don't even know, to be honest. I still haven't found the 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 video that actually goes over that. Like when I add the debug function, it could, for all I know, it could be in the very beginning of something. I don't know. Oh shit! It boggles my mind that like my debugging is somehow tied to that. What? Wait a minute. Is it because when I generate it, it's not actually... Oh, I think it's looking for me to... That. I need to figure out where we actually get this thing. This is what's causing everything else to just go nuts. Set value. This is supposed to do the rest of the values, and it's not. That's hilarious. My in the grid here, what he has is he takes this, his debug text array, and he throws it in here. Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. he actually just takes this whole thing and throws it in there. Rather, hold on. Text. Someone's calling me. I don't know who you are, bro. All right. He says, text mesh. Mesh. Can't type. Can't think. Great day to be a game dev. A line. This guy's lines in here. And then before he completely exits, and this is what I was missing before as well. Object event art. Okay, so I gotta figure out where that is placed. Okay, so I missed out on this somewhere. We'll just add it in now. On grid value changed. Equals object sender on grid value change args event args equals debug text array event args .x event args.y text grid array x y to string. Oh, that's supposed to be our arguments. I don't know why it didn't give me that. All right, so now it should work when you just click on it. Should be able to work outside of having all your numbers and stuff up. So turn that off. Grab my console, turn it back on. What we got? It still doesn't work. Ah! Am I supposed to get rid of that? So it looks like this guy's gone. That technically is above. Let's try it again. There we go. Oh, man. One thing I can really say is I gotta learn to follow instructions better. But, okay. We're building the blocks, building the pieces. Game dev design, as I consider a mentor, even though I don't think I've talked to him directly, Thomas. Sorry, bad student here. You don't have to know what everything means in here. It helps, obviously, if you do. But as a game developer, your job is to make a game. The whole purpose is to make a game. The better you can make that game, smoother you can make that game, you're doing your job well. In the beginning, if you can say you've made a game and it's complete, whatever that entails, then you've done it. If not, then you still got ways to go. So, if anything, take heart looking at how much I fumble just trying to make these basic things, and know that you're gonna have problems. You're gonna run into snags, and yeah, you just gotta keep trucking. But anyways, okay, I think it's good. I think it's safe. All right, now I'm gonna save it. I'm going to actually export this. So I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna export my package. I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna export that. Those are other scripts. Don't need that because I already have that. I guess, yeah, these are what we're gonna export. So export, we're gonna name it what? Map. Yeah. Dunzo. Now. Oh man, it's 12:20. Okay, I promise I will be back within an hour, and I will actually get to the parse set. I promised. Oh, rough start, right? But we'll be back. We'll get into this. I need to get something to eat. I need to take my dogs out for a walk, and then we will begin with generics. All right. Talk to you folks later. In about an hour or so.